Hey, so I'm back at the 7.3. Transmission saga begins. I pulled out the tranny last night. I was fairly drunk.
What are you, drunk, Mr. Hurley?
Well, I had a few Chardonnays. What of it?
Get off the stand, please.
You got it.
And spilled a lot of transmission fluid on the floor. But it's fine. So it was a bit of a wrestling match, I just used a fucking floor jack, so I tried to, I had to keep the angle right so that I could get the input shaft out of the torque converter. And that was tricky just to keep the angles right so it wouldn't bind on me and it would just slide straight back. And then I got it out, and then I had it sitting on jack stands, and then it tipped over and then spilled a bunch of oil out of the tailstock. But it is what it is. There's not much you can do about it. Anyway, I got to get the torque converter off. I got to figure out which flywheel I'm going to use, because by the looks of it, this automatic one is completely different, which is fine. It doesn't matter because I have the one that goes with this transmission right there. So I'm going to try and get this thing put back in. I am going to roll it outside because it hasn't been outside since last summer. I'm going to probably roll it outside today and clean up the floor underneath of it. So that's my goal here. So I got her yanked out with the tractor. It's the first time she's been outside, and like I said, I'm pretty sure 8 months, I believe, was when I pulled the cab off late summer last year. So got her outside, can get this torque converter pulled off. I just pulled her outside to more or less sweep the floor and shit, and just get this bay kind of cleaned up so it's a little bit nicer to work in. But I got this bay cleaned out too. I was parking my tractor in here, but doesn't really need to be parked inside anyway. I really only parked it inside just so that I could just open the door and blow the snow away. But I did that pretty much once the snow for the year was done. So anyway, I'm gonna get everything cleaned up, and then I'm gonna pull this torque converter while it's outside, just because it's easy to see, and probably pull that flywheel off and go from there. So I just brought the truck back, just pushed the truck back in. I just pulled it out to sweep the floor and shit. And while I was outside and had some good light, I pulled the torque converter off, pulled the flex plate off, went to put this flywheel on, and the hub here where that sits in here doesn't fit. It's about 1/8 of an inch difference. I have the actual measurements written on the board there. 2.047 inches. So 2-inch 47 thou is what I need, and then 2-inch 1/4, or that's the hub size on the flywheel. 2-inch 1/4/3 is the exact hub size of that, and then the hub size on the flex plate that came off is 2-inch 1/4/8. So I need to find somebody with a lathe and then just stick that thing in there and mill it out 100 thou of an inch-ish, and then that will make that so I'll be able to bolt on my flywheel, and then I can bolt up the pressure plate and clutch. I'm still on the fence about whether I need a new clutch or not, but I'm thinking I might just throw it in just to make sure it all works, because I have no idea of the actual condition of this transmission. And I also need to get my clutch hydraulics and whatnot worked out. I have 3 of these slave cylinders, and I have a master cylinder, but I'm on the fence of buying a master and slave pre-bled, just one deal, because I don't know that I can, I've heard it's a huge pain in the ass to bleed these things, but I've never done it myself, so I don't know. I need to find my throw-out fork for here. I have no idea where the heck I put it, but I do have it. So I need to find that. And then yeah, I just want to get the transmission into the truck. And then I'm probably going to hack up the drive shaft I've got here because it's a steel shaft and just try and weld it as good as I can just for testing purposes until I can. Because what I can probably do is get one of these shafts and get somebody to like properly cut it and weld it. But I might just do it myself just to get the thing going and then go from there. And if it works out good, I can maybe just, if I can do a clean enough job of it, I can probably send it in to get balanced. But I don't know. I'm just playing it by ear here, seeing how things go. So the flywheel saga continues. I got a quote from a machining shop in not too far from me, but half an hour away from me. And they quoted me for research. They said a resurfacing run's probably about $250, and then the custom work, the quote would probably be around $250. So I took it over. I got a friend down the road who's a millwright, so I took it down to him. He had a look at it, looked at the ring. He said he can just clamp it in his three-jaw chuck in his lathe and knock off that 100th thou I needed. And he said it would be like a half hour of a job, and that's what I figured. So he's going to get that done for me. We looked at it, and I don't think it's even worth resurfacing. I might just take a palm sander and just clean the rust off it so the clutch has some good bite. So that's another thing off the list. Then I can get this transmission installed, and then it's all uphill from there. Really, like it's still a project, but I'm getting there. So I pulled the top cover off the T19 just to have a look at it and see what I was working with, and actually it looks to be in very, very good shape. No nasty marks in any of the gears or anything. There's maybe a little bit of play, but once you put it into gear, it's solid. Like no play at all. It's solid. So I think I got a good transmission here. And I think the shifter's maybe a little bit sloppy, but it's not too bad. The reason I pulled it apart was because the shifter seemed to be a little bit sloppy, but it does what it needs to, I guess. I'm assuming somebody's had this transmission apart before because of the gasket that's on here. It's like RTV, or not even, it's like just silicone. Like, I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna scrape all that off and put something fresh on there and put it back together because I'm fairly happy with the condition of this transmission. The F250 project is a slow go. Haven't done much to it lately. I have it kind of marked out where the hole is going to go for that shifter, for the shifter to come through. So now that I have it lined up, I'm going to cut that out, and I'm going to cut this out and put this floor pan in that I was going to put in the old cab, but never got around to. So that's kind of a thing. And then the old steering column bracket doesn't bolt up to this pedal assembly. So I've been making a new one very poorly because I'm not much of a fabricator.
First of all, I'm not a rapper. Let's go.
This is the steel one that I'm making on the bench, drilling holes, making the slots for the bolts to bolt the steering column up to match this one because it's too wide, so I made it quite a bit narrower. Like trying to make it work. I don't have any sort of a template other than this, but this one doesn't work, so I've been just kind of winging it because as long as the thing bolts tight and holds the steering column in place, that's really all I need. So I had a guy, friend of mine, custom mill out the back side of this flywheel, this hub right here, because it wouldn't fit on the hub of the 7.3 because it's off of a 6.9. So he did that, and then the other night I went to throw it on, and the bolts aren't long enough with the flywheel in place to actually bolt it up. And these are the bolts that came with the flywheel when I got it with the transmission. So I need to get on Rock Auto or something and see if I can find some longer bolts for it. So I'm kind of at a bit of a standstill, but it gives me some time to work on the cab and get the cab dialed before I bother trying to throw this thing back, put this thing in. I'll get to it eventually.